The HR Happy Hour Network is proudly sponsored by WorkHuman. The workplace is changing fast, and the leaders who understand what's coming will have the advantage. WorkHuman's annual Trends webinar returns January 29th with research-backed insights on the hottest trends shaping 2026. Discover how top organizations are navigating AI, psychological safety, performance, and equity to outperform their competition. Plus, exclusive findings from McKinsey's Women in the Workplace 2026 report. Featuring an expert panel from McKinsey and WorkHuman, you'll get the intelligence you need to lead with confidence this year. Join the Trends webinar live January 29th at noon Eastern or catch the replay on demand. Register for free at workhuman.com. This episode of At Work in America is sponsored by Paychex, an industry-leading human capital management company that helps businesses of all sizes succeed with its award-winning combination of digital HR technology and advisory services. Discover what 600 business leaders are prioritizing in 2026 and how they're overcoming today's biggest obstacles. Uncover insights and strategies from this year's Paychex Priorities for Business Leaders survey results to reclaim time spent on admin tasks, reduce turnover costs and keep your top talent, protect your data and defend against cyber threats, and turn your biggest challenges into wins in 2026. Head to paychex.com/AWIA, that's paychex.com/AWIA to read the full report. Don't just guess your priorities, know them. Welcome back to the At Work in America show. My name's Steve Boese. I am so excited to be here. I'm with Trish Steed. Of course, Trish, welcome. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Excited to be recording here at the beginning of the year. Happy New Year.
Yes, indeed. Happy New Year as well. I'm excited because we're welcoming back a guest, longtime guest, old friend of the show. Haven't talked to her in a little while, but she's back with us to sort of kick off our year and dive into some really interesting research that our friends at Paychex have published recently on what business leaders, HR leaders, particularly in smaller organizations, like what's top of mind? What are their challenges? And more importantly, maybe, what are some of the ways we can help them manage those challenges? So our guest is Alison Stevens. She's a Senior Director of HR Solutions at Paychex. Alison, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Hello. Happy New Year, Trish. Steve, great to be with you.
Great as well. I mentioned you've been on the show a couple of times. It's been a little while, so maybe we can refresh listeners' memories just about who you are, of course, and a little bit about what you do at Paychex, because the group that you manage and have been working with for a while is a really interesting group and a real. It's not just about software, right? And which I think makes that group so special. So maybe let's learn more about that.
I would be delighted to talk to you about my team. I'm always so proud of them. So any chance I get to talk about them, I'm all in. So yes, I'm the head of service for our HR Solutions division at Paychex. And so what that means is I lead a very large team of HR professionals, experts who are all across the country supporting our clients with not just technology, but also guidance and expertise in HR. So our mission is to help our clients succeed, help them solve problems, help them achieve their business priorities, and help them either learn about HR or ensure that their HR practices are compliant and transformational and strategic. We work right alongside of them, getting to know their businesses really well. Ultimately, we want to be their trusted partner. And that's what we do each and every day. It's fantastic.
I'm so excited that you're talking about that type of service, Alison, because there were many times in my HR career when I look back and I think I would tell people like, I'm an island, I'm here doing this all by myself, or it feels very much like that. And just the thought of how you all differentiate yourselves by having that, not just partner even, I think like that's just such a key, like linking arms with someone, feeling like you've got each other's backs, truly. So do your clients tend to feel that way too?
Absolutely. And, before coming to Paychex, Trish, I was in that role too, right? The one person HR leader, right? And we always used to joke it was the department of three, me, myself, and I. And
Yep.
so, that might be the case. Or we are also at Paychex working with, large established HR teams and executives. So, really runs the gamut with respect to who we serve. But, we hear it a lot, that our clients that we work with are like, I don't know what I would do without my HR professional alongside me. In particular, I think, and in today's work environment, right, empowering our HR professionals to really help guide our clients, and they truly appreciate that. They appreciate, having another voice and having someone that listens and really gets to know both them as leaders, business owners, as well as, understanding what their needs are so that we can really tailor the work that we're doing with them and customize it to what their priorities are. And we're not just giving them, sort of a cookie cutter answer or a best practice answer. We're really providing them with customized guidance on what's important to them.
Great.
Yeah, and it's that combination, right? We've talked about this a little bit before in the show, but it's that powerful combination of expertise, insight, just expert level knowledge around compliance, around regulations, and also, a world-class technology platform behind that as well, right? Which we could talk about ad nauseum. There's loads to talk about, Alison, but one of the things certainly we specifically earmarked for sort of this kicking off the year kind of show is to dive in a little bit to some research Paychex published recently. It's the Paychex 2026 Business Leader Priorities Report, 7th annual report, where you're asking business leaders, HR leaders, hey, what are your challenges? What's sort of keep the old cliche a little bit about, what's keeping you up at night? What are you worried about? What's hard? Where are you struggling? And it really helps, I think, for to dive into this for a couple of ways. One is to get the pulse of what business leaders are facing, what they're feeling, and then to think about how we as HR leaders, as HR technology folks listening to the show, how can we help them respond, right? What are some of the ways, right, that we can help them manage these challenges? So I'll tee it off there, Alison. Maybe you want to give us a couple, 2 or 3 notes from, hey, this is what this report is telling us this year about what these smaller businesses, up to about 1,000 employees, right, are facing in their businesses.
Sure. This was our 7th annual survey. I always get excited. I can't wait for it to come out so we can see, what the findings are. And, every year is more fascinating than the next. So, for this year, I think we found that, business leaders are aggressively pursuing growth of their business. And in fact, over 60% make that a top priority for them. But at the same time, they're also managing, the most complex, operational environment in years. So you've got, that pursuit of growth, but then the pursuit of managing your costs as effectively as possible in a cost challenged economy. So, for me, that's the headline. And then when you break it down, right, from finance, kind of that financial view, almost 60% had rising costs, inflation, squeezing their margins as, an impact to businesses as they move ahead. Um, you know, Almost 30% said from an HR perspective, benefits administration, right, was top in the category for them from an HR perspective. Compliance, right, also a priority, but then more specifically, data privacy, data protection, top of mind, of course, as we continue to all navigate, the benefits and the complexities that AI brings as companies look to apply different types of technology, leveraging AI. And then lastly, also along the notes of technology, right, like data security, employee data privacy, still rises to the top. So, if you kind of think about it from like financial view, HR view, and then double click, right? What's driving costs that impact how you manage your workforce, and then, what are the actions you need to take that in some cases may require investments
Hmm.
to really ensure you can accelerate and make the right decisions for your business and thrive.
Yeah. Those are all huge topics too. It's not like any one of
Hmm.
those, you could really put all of your efforts or your team's efforts, if you have one, on any one, right? So why don't we break it down a little bit? I know a lot of people love listening to the paycheck shows because they walk away with some things not just to think about but to take action on. So you mentioned a moment ago about the cost challenge economy. So obviously, there were questions about that, and you were talking about sort of the repercussions of that for a business who is in that growth mode. What are you all seeing in the companies you're working with, or even as you're thinking about maybe potential companies that you're not working with yet? What strategies are you and your team finding maybe most effective when dealing with trying to grow in that type of an economic situation?
Yeah. So right now, I think as we talk to clients, we're really seeing, they're increasingly interested in adopting, the technology automation that both, we can provide at Paychex or, so many companies in the HCM HR industry are offering. Whether it's, payroll, tax filing, making sure
Sure.
they're managing their business compliantly, looking for that automation versus, having to rely on another source that is also going to be another cost.
Mhm.
Um, I've talked to countless clients on my own, just listening to them of, oh, I spend this many dollars a year, and it's big dollars, right? On leveraging a relationship with a law firm to
Mhm.
make their policy. Well, in this day and age, that is not always necessary because, you know, at Paychex, we offer that. It's
Yeah.
automated, it's AI driven, it's platform based, and it's dynamic. So, working with an expert, they can move through that process of building policies really quickly and have that peace of mind that they don't have to worry about. And then they don't have that additional cost and can, start to really streamline their expenses.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you mentioned that, and specifically too, I'm thinking back to my last job where I was truly HR leader, and that relationship with a law firm, it was an everyday call. I probably spent an hour a day on that. So if you're even thinking about, it's not just the cost savings and maybe, handling it more efficiently and accurately, but it's also just it's saving your leaders time to do other things, truly, which we've kind of talked for decades about wanting. And I feel like now it's here, right? Because you have that automation.
Absolutely. And I tell this story a lot about, back in the day too, when I was in
Mhm.
HR as an HR executive at a company, and the CFO used to like yell at me from down the hall because you'd be opening the mail and looking at
Oh,
the bill from the law firm because same thing, right?
same
I was
thing.
also on the phone with them for hours. So
Yep, every
it's
day.
nice not to have those conversations anymore. And absolutely,
Or
the
maybe said differently, engaging with those outside experts or outside counsel for those really critical things where you do require an outside counsel, right? Like
exactly,
there are
you are
times when we
yeah.
do need them, but we don't need them for every last, shred of employment regulation, right? That
Mhm.
that gets created by a state or a local,
Correctly,
government.
correct. And
Yep.
then if something changes within, state, local, or federal, then it's automated, right? It's coming to you, versus you having to go and get it. So,
Oh, that's
that peace of mind that also comes with knowing that, there's, employment law and compliance platform, that we have at Paychex that's going to enable my team to, navigate thousands and thousands of complex employment laws, to be able to create documents for our clients that we know are compliant. And so we can then give our clients the assurance that, we're always going to make sure that
That
they're up.
is really cool. I didn't know, Alison. I don't know if that's new since last time we talked, but that is really cool. Like that capability and that offering, because yeah, Trish, I said that, as you said, that would have alleviated a lot of the time you spent,
yeah.
right, with outside
Well,
counsel as an HR
and I
leader.
think, Steve, I think too, if I'm thinking if I had that at the time, it also positions, we think a lot about HR and how we're positioned with the rest of the C-suite, or our leaders, right? Other leaders in the organization. And it puts you more in an expert role. If I'm having to take all my own time just to try and stay on top of compliance, and researching it myself and maybe getting it wrong, I have no time to become an expert. Whereas if it's I wrote down, it's coming to me, right? So if it's coming to me, that gives me my time to be able to understand it and think of ways to then articulate that to the rest of the business, which it positions HR in a whole new way, which is what we've wanted.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. And you can thread that through to, I think, to the point you wanted to make earlier, Trish, that if you're spending your time more strategically as an HR leader, or a business leader, right, then it's enabling time for you as that leader to spend time on more strategic things, and perhaps the people around you are also enabled to do more in that kind of layer of strategy versus the tactical day-to-day tasks that can now be streamlined, automated, and powered by AI.
Sure. Love that.
Alison, you mentioned like one of the headlines from this report is the focus on growth. 60+% of organizations, and these are really small businesses right around the United States, really focused on growth, trying to drive growth and trying to manage in a complex world, in an increasing cost world, right, to try to manage growth. And the report, many of the resources that Paychex do a great job of, offers some really good ideas, advice, tips, et cetera, for leaders. And I want to bring up a couple of them around managing growth, because growth often means scale, right? It means more people, it means more locations, right? It doesn't always mean that, but it often does, right? And so the report talks about, hey, integrated technology platforms is one of the ways you could scale much more efficiently. Automated compliance, we've talked about some, Alison, as well. But one other one I'll mention, I'd love for you to comment on: faster onboarding and then time to productivity as a lever that organizations could try to pull to help manage growth and try to scale faster. And I know you guys work with your clients and the Paychex Flex tool as well as great tools for onboarding. But I was so interested to see that particular one was pulled out, because I don't think we often think about that as onboarding as a growth engine.
Sure.
Yeah, you're right. And I think there's that is a topic we could spend a ton of time on, but the way that I look at it is, onboarding as a vehicle for efficiency and streamlining work and reducing tasks. So everything from integration of your payroll, your benefits, your, people, technology, and analytics, right? That allow you to go straight from, okay, the candidate is now moving from candidate to employee. And then even before that, right, how do you use technology to even get that talent in the door? Whether you're using AI to screen candidates or using some of the AI tools, through Paychex and our partners, right, that helps bring those candidates, like find them directly to your door. Um, and then once they're there, how do you streamline that process of, welcoming that employee and giving them that first experience of being an employee of your organization. So, benefits enrollment, then admin, making that a streamlined process, making sure that the employee has knowledge of all of the benefits you offer, and being able to get that information digitally and being able to enroll online rather than having to fill out
Mm-hmm.
pieces of paper, right? So making that process much more streamlined, I think, as companies realize that that does not have to be like a full day in a room with a stack of paper anymore. And it can be done digitally with, supplementary information that also helps an employer convey what is their culture, right? What are their values, so that the employee is sort of getting the best of both worlds in that onboarding experience. And that's going to make them stay,
Yeah.
right? And then that kind of next layer of, making sure, when I talked about the value that my team brings to our client base, it's, really understanding what their needs are and their priorities. So we're helping them, make those benefits decisions on, like, what are the programs and benefits you should be offering, based on the industry that you're in, or the geo that you're in, or what
Mm-hmm.
type of candidate you're trying to attract. So you can kind of see how that's why onboarding gets placed
Yeah.
into the category of this discussion, because it's just become so critically important. And every business that we talk to, they need to retain those employees.
Yeah. Excites me when you talk about the benefits portion there because I recall I spent my whole career, like a little confession here, not ever wanting to lead benefits. That was
Hmm.
and actually even payroll. I did not like either one, right? Until until I became an actual leader in HR and I figured out how strategic those things can be. So when you're talking about which benefits do you select for your organization, that is such a complex thing to handle on your own. I've tried it. It is not fun. If it's you and your CFO sitting down, for example, in a smaller business, especially, right? And you've always got the sort of the voices saying, "Oh, make more cuts, don't, offer less." So it, I think having, you all as partners on that too, it's not just going to give those great benefits then ultimately to the end users, to the employees, is actually making the HR team feel more empowered, right? Because we all want to help people. We want our employees to have a good experience. And I think if you don't have that person sometimes guiding you hand in hand on what benefits can be offered to pull and push different levers that going to make someone maybe stay or join or, are you seeing that too when you're talking to maybe customers where they haven't used you in that way before and now that they are? What kind of reaction do they have when they're getting that specific assistance?
Yes, and it's been, in some cases, it can be a real joy. It's so rewarding for us to be able to sit down with them and sort of understand, okay, what has been your process of benefit selection or plan design in the past, and then how can we be helpful, right? We have the Paychex agency, which is, exists to be able to help clients, or our PEO organization, right? Both exist to
Mhm.
provide best in class benefits to small businesses all across the United States. And so, more recently, we've actually been working with an outside partner that is offering kind of a lower cost to our clients of group benefits, right? So dental and other ancillaries. And in this day and age, right, talking about the priorities of this research study, right? Clients want to grow, but they're also faced with rising costs. So how do you marry the two and still be able to meet your business objectives of growing or scaling? And so we're able to have those conversations and offer them a
Mhm.
solution and a remedy versus, having that conversation, whether it's alone with them, sitting there wondering what to
Mhm.
do, trying to make sense of it on their own in a very complex area of HR to be able to navigate, as we talked
Right.
about, and then being able to deliver on giving them that opportunity for optimization of cost, but also the support. Right? So
Yeah.
not having to reconcile your benefits bill with your, payroll data. Right? So we're offering that integration that again speaks to that efficiency. And so that's where I always say that's where you're translating the investments in that array of integrated HR technology and solutions plus the expert of an HR professional, bringing that all together. So it puts hours of time back in your day.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. And I think that the end outcome also, maybe 6 months, 9 months, a year later, you actually have employees coming into HR then saying, "Thank you so much for, like, making sure that we have the benefits that are actually helping my family." Like,
Yes.
I've actually had times where, like, you get thank you cards, for example, because you're giving them something that is so well thought out. And so organizations that don't do that step, it's like you're just missing out, I think, at this point.
I totally agree. It's a game changer. You have to react and respond to the needs of your workforce. And, I think some of our early conversations, right, were around, the evolution of the workforce in America now really putting, well-being and health at
Mm.
at the top of their list. So, employers have to act in kind to be sure that they are providing a robust set of benefits to their employees. Again, because retaining them is so critical.
Right.
Right, and that definition has of robust has expanded quite a bit, and there's a great line in the report, that I wrote down, And it's the quote is, health insurance costs more, right, to companies, but matters less as a competitive advantage because they're baseline, right? Everybody expects, okay, well, I'll have good medical coverage, sponsored by my employer, and everybody expects that. Everybody sort of demands that. So what else can employers do, right? So that robust is such an important word you said, Alison,
Yeah.
because increasingly that retention lever and that engagement lever is, benefits is such a big driver of those things. It's I just got through doing a whole show about like the emotional connection of people to their benefits that I
Oh,
did over the summer with someone, and it's really true, right? And so having expertise both on the service side, on the technology side, to help organizations, because again, we're talking about small businesses here, right? And we're talking about a business here that's 50, 70, 80 employees. The person running that business, they're running the business. They're not in the weeds of what's the latest in, employee mental health benefit technology or support, right? They just can't know that, right? And so it's very, very important because it speaks to the growth challenges that we talked about, certainly cost challenges, but also, how we're treating our employees.
Absolutely. And, I say often, right, we're here to help our clients, solve problems. But and I think sometimes, right, you might hear when I say solve problems of, oh, we're solving an employee relations issue or, something unique or specific just to that business, which is true. But
mhm.
if you zoom out, it's exactly what you're describing, Steve, where we are every single day helping those small businesses, whether we're acting as a translator of something that's quite complex that they need to determine that must be part of their benefits program. But really, thinking about it through the lens of the employee of, does this make sense for what, you hear from them of what your employees need? Are you talking to your employees? So, everything from giving them the vehicle to engage their employees and talk to them and get feedback through whether it's a survey tool or employee engagement exercise to then the plan design to then being able to assist them in the rollout and helping them increase their knowledge and acumen in benefits administration and design so that both the digital materials as well as like their confidence raises so that
Yeah.
their employees feel confident that yes, wow, I made the right choice with my employer and I'm really happy with the benefits that they offer so that to your point, Trish, they're coming to them saying thank you instead of asking questions that sometimes the business owner may have a lot of difficulty answering,
Sure.
and it's not for any fault of their own. It's just there's so much to know. So we're here
Hmm.
to help them
Yeah.
in the simplification of this broad array of topics and actions that ultimately lead to how their employees feel about working at their company.
Yeah.
Alison, I want to hit one more topic that the report really points out, and it sort of drove me crazy a little bit before we let you go. And well, just because like it shouldn't be this way and it should be, which is the amount of time business leaders report getting caught up in HR admin and admin tasks and the amount of time we're spending even just to run and manage our payroll, which is almost 20%, right? Like of time
Mhm.
spent on like doing payroll stuff, right? According to the report. And it said one of the highlights was nearly one third of leaders report so they spend 11 plus hours per week on HR admin. I looked down to make sure I read that right.
Mhm.
Cool. It doesn't have to be that way. And I know we've talked about lots of ways that you and the big team you work with at Paychex help organizations with that. But look, there's so much opportunity, I guess, for the average organization listening to this. There's a lot of opportunity to reclaim time back. And I think that could be one of the biggest drivers of efficiency, but also the opportunity for growth, right? And Trish, you said right at the beginning of the show, right? We've been talking about freeing up time for ever and ever
Yeah.
and ever, but
Right.
it still is an issue, right? We still need to work on it. And I
Yeah.
was like, I read that this morning. I was like, wow, I can't believe that.
Right? I know. And, I agree. And we're here to help. And I think it's very easy to talk about it, and it's much more difficult to sort of sit and almost give yourself a grade of, okay, I've done all of these tasks today, and how many of them could be automated or lifted off of my plate to spend more time on the more critical things I need to do to
Yeah.
lead my business every single day. And we're humans, so we're creatures of habit, and so we develop habits, and it's very hard to break them. But um, I think that is what inspires and motivates me to lead a team that is, we're continuously reminding our clients or potential clients of the benefits of automation.
Mhm.
Even just making the choice to bring together, what might today be multiple vendors and invoices that you're managing every month, and bringing that to one bill,
Yeah.
right? So that, your 401k, your health, and your ancillary benefits, and your payroll, and your
Yeah.
HR outsourcing services are all together. And you
Yeah.
don't have to then adjudicate all of them. It's one. And then on top of that, right, taking advantage of whether it's, streamlining your payroll and your employee data, and that, moving away from managing it by hand. I actually had a conversation. I've been doing a roadshow with my teams, and just joining their team meetings and listening, right? Just listening in. It's wonderful. And just heard this story where an HR professional was talking about a client who, he's like, I'm talking to this client, and they have been, for however many years, every week that they're processing their payroll, they're also, they were taking the retirement plan deductions manually, right? Putting it all together to then upload. So it's like, okay, how do we bring that to them as an integrated solution? And I was
Right.
like, wow, how many hours of the week are we saving them? It's probably, more than 11.
There is so much more in this report that we don't have time to talk about today, but I would encourage everyone listening to the show to go out to paychex.com. We'll put a link right to this report in the show notes. Download, it's free. It's about 23 pages long. You can read it like over morning coffee one morning or on your lunch break or something. So, but there's plenty there. Stuff we didn't get to today, but great recommendations throughout the report for how organizations can approach growth, how they can approach costs, how they can, think about automating systems using AI, right? AI is an area we only maybe hinted around. And maybe, Alison, when you come back, we could talk more about AI in the small business context. I think that's a fascinating area we could dive into. But so I totally encourage folks to do that. And then I want to thank our friend Alison Stevens for coming back to the show and joining us. It's great to see you. And we hope it's going to be a great year for small businesses around this great land of ours.
It will be. We're here to help them. So thank you.
Love it.
Awesome. Great stuff. Trish, great stuff. It's going to be a great year on the show. This is what, our 17th year of doing shows, something like that?
It is our 17th year.
Or 18th. I don't remember.
We're finishing our 17th season. So yes, we are going into our 18th, and we always start with Paychex. So thank you so
Awesome.
much, Alison. It's good to see you. Happy New Year.
Great stuff. Okay, go out to hrhappyhour.net for all the show cards. Alison, Steven, thank you much for Paychex. Trish, thank you. We will see you next time. Bye for now.